Hi, this is Mrs. Perry Ising with another tutorial for Deer Park High School's multimedia class. And in this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to make basic edits in Final Cut Pro 10 just by dropping some clips onto your timeline. So first thing I'm going to do is look at my browser to find the clip that I want to work with. And I'm kind of, not digging that these are not in alphabetical order. So I'm going to right click inside my browser and I'm going to say sort by, and I'm going to say name, and that puts my clips in order. Clip 1, clip 2, clip 3, and so on. So if I take a look at this first clip, this clip is of people who were being interviewed for our bone marrow drive that we held at our school a couple of years ago. So what I want to do is I want to find what my in point is and what my out point is for this clip. So that means I'm not using the entire clip. The in point is the point at which I'd like to start using this clip, and the out point is the point at which I'd like to stop using this clip. So I know that they're just going to introduce themselves in the beginning of the clip, so I'll start about right here. And I'm going to press the space bar to play, and I can also use the space bar to stop. So hitting the space bar, I want to look and listen.
JFK?
Both of us are volunteering.
Okay, she says, both of us are volunteering. So I'd like to get rid of him saying, So right now, I'm going to back up a little bit. Now when she says, I can use my left arrow key to move one frame to the left, or I can use my right arrow key to move one frame to the right. So this way I get a more precise edit. So instead of dragging these sliders here, I'm going to put my cursor where I left off. You can see that her eyes are shut and her mouth is a little bit open. So I'm going to use the left arrow key and just back up a frame at a time. Okay. That's the point at which I think I'm going to put my endpoint. So I'm going to hit the letter I for endpoint, and let me play it.
Both of us are volunteering our time to help Carl. We hope the donation today is a great success. I was honored enough to have him as a student a few years ago. I am a donor today, and I hope it to be a successful drive. So if somebody out there can help Carl.
Stop. So I hit the space bar to stop. That's the point that I want to stop at. His mouth's a little bit open, so I might want to back up with my left arrow key like a frame or two. That looks good. That's a nicer look. And hit my O for out point. So now, when you look at my clip in the timeline, or excuse me, in the browser, I'm not using what's to the left of the in point bracket, and I'm not using what's to the right of the out point bracket. I'm just using what's in the middle, right here where the cursor is. So now what I can do is, I have lots of ways I can get this onto my timeline. I can click and drag and drop it onto the timeline. Let me hit Command Z to undo. Or, I could, with it selected, I could hit the letter E on the keyboard. That's a shortcut key, and that will drop it onto my timeline. Let me hit Command Z to undo that. And another way I can put a basic clip on the timeline is I can use these tools right here. So this one right here drops your clip onto the timeline. So that's one clip. So let's say I was using this clip right here, and I don't know what they're saying. I'm just going to put any old in point and out point. Let's say that's my in point, and let's say I'm going to scrub through it, and they're talking, and let's say that's my out point. So now once again, I can just click and drag and drop that to the timeline, or I can just hit the letter E and drop it onto the timeline. So that's a little bit of a, basic editing, making in points and out points and getting them onto your timeline. Now let's talk about some of these other tools right here. Now, let's just say, for example, I was going to use this right here, in point and out point. Now, look, the first one here, if I wanted to do B-roll, which means, like, let's say they're talking right there, and I want some B-roll. So first they're talking, then we flash to the B-roll, then we flash to them again. In that case, I would use this icon right here. Boom. And my clip for the B-roll comes out over them. So if I was to backtrack and just scrub through as you're playing, there's the B-roll, and then they come back. That's one thing I could do. Let me click on that and delete it. Another thing I could do is, if you look at this clip right here, this one, wherever your playhead is or your cursor is in your timeline, if you use this one, that's going to split this clip and put this one in the middle of them. So watch. I have the clip highlighted with the in and out points. I hit the icon, and it just split this in half. This is to the left, this is the B-roll clip, and this is to the right. Let me hit Command Z. The next icon you might want to take a look at is this one at the end. What this does is this overwrites. So if I click here, I've got my clip highlighted, and I click on the icon, it's going to overwrite whatever was in here. So that's some basic ways to get your clips onto your timeline. So however you like to work, whether you like to click and drag and drop a clip onto the timeline, or if you like to hit the letter E to put a clip on the timeline, or perhaps if you like to use one of these tools here to put your clip on the timeline. There's no right or wrong way, whatever works for you. As you edit more often, you'll get used to whatever your way of doing things is. Okay, that's how you just start to build a project, is just drop clips on the timeline. In future tutorials, we'll talk about how to properly work with B-roll and so forth. Okay, that's it for now. We'll catch you in the next tutorial.